Ooh. Did I scare you?
Oh, yeah.
I'm always scary, huh? Hey everybody, welcome back to Black Lotus Live, where we talk about all things strange and unusual. And tonight we are going to be talking about all things Halloween related. And the reason we're doing this now is because although Halloween falls on a Sunday this year, we normally do our broadcasts on Sundays. It would be really tough to do that because Ralph, Terry, and I have a ton of trick-or-treaters every single year. So it would be really tough to do this with doorbell ring every 2 or 3 minutes, you know? So,
Right.
so we decided, what's that?
I said, awesome.
Yeah. Well, okay. The first year Terry and I moved here, and this was almost 7 years ago, we had like over 300 trick-or-treaters come through.
Wow.
It was just, I mean, I remember having to drop everything, run back to the store and get more candy. It was just crazy. But the trick-or-treaters are cute. I enjoy watching them, you know, but yeah. So anyway, before we get into the whole Halloween thing, I want to ask the panel a question regarding UFOs and UFO research. Do you think that, especially, you know, maybe not us because we're barely a blip on the radar, but do you think that the larger networks, like for instance, Third Phase of Moon, that sort of thing, do you think they're on a government watch list?
I've been asked that a lot already this week.
Have you?
Yep.
And what was your answer?
Nobody really know that, especially ever since Facebook and the other ones went down. I've gotten a lot of questions if, and people are going to Facebook jail, a lot of them right now. I had 4 of them within a 1 hour period yesterday. And they said that they're being watched and everybody's being watched that's doing anything with the paranormal.
Well,
that's
yeah.
Including UFOs and that.
In fact, Wild and I were just talking about that, about YouTube and how people are, you know, paranormal channels are getting shadow banned. And what that's doing is it's affecting their numbers. And Terry's back. But yeah, and so it's really affecting larger paranormal channels like Third Phase of Moon, for example. I mean, let's say the average amount of hits that they're getting is like 1,500. And now suddenly it's dropping down to maybe 600. And it's really affecting the way they, you know, monetize. And so it's pretty screwed up. But yeah, and you know, and I was telling Wild, I could understand if these channels were spreading modern day political conspiracy theories, you know, that, you know, are obvious, it's obviously fake. But with like the paranormal, you can't prove it one way or the other. So
Right.
Why are they attacking us, you know, and, you know, researchers and investigators? So, I mean, I just don't get it. I really don't. Viewers, speaking of that, I'm sorry to sound like I'm begging for likes, but one of the ways you could help us change that algorithm is make sure you hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, and hit the little bell to make sure you get notifications. And that's another problem that I've heard from some of our viewers, is that they're not getting notifications. So I kind of wonder if we're getting shadow banned a little bit. I don't know, but
yeah, Chuck Band just said he never show up in his feeds.
Yeah, see, there you go. Yeah.
Damien, I'd like to address what you said about the watch lists, whether UFO groups are on watch lists. I think it is possible, because I think something is happening in the UFO community involving the government. They have some plan. So they would obviously be interested in what we're doing, what the culture is doing. So I think it is possible. Now, 2 other points I want to make. YouTube banning alien paranormal channels, the reason I think it's happening is because I think it's a huge overcorrection. It happens in society all the time. So there was some misinformation found on YouTube. There were some harmful things, had nothing to do with the paranormal, but there was bad information on YouTube. So they got in trouble and they overcorrected. Now they just like ban everything, or they just deplatform everything that even like barely touches that world. So this show, for instance, I don't think it's a harmful show. I think it helps people. It is scientific. I am a scientist. I talk about science. It's actually could be considered an educational show in a lot of respects, but they're just banning it. It's just like it's an overcorrection.
It helps everybody actually, because we have a lot of people that even come to me that do watch our show, and that has gotten a lot of help from it, a lot of more understanding than what they had before.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. And
That's good. That's good.
One last thing I wanted to say about that whole issue was that, okay, so if we think about governments intimidating researchers, okay, I found a really interesting story recently, and I think it parallels what might be going on. So this is Nintendo. Nintendo is one of the biggest companies in the world. They make video games. This is how this has been proven. When they find a hacker in the community that is hacking their software so it's free to play, Nintendo takes two tactics. Number one, first they bully the person. They send investigators over to them. They follow them around. They try to scare them to stop being a hacker. Or if that doesn't work, they offer them a job with Nintendo. And that's how they handle their problems. So I'm wondering if the government would take a similar approach with UFO researchers.
So, hey, maybe we'll get a job with them.
Yeah, I'd rather work for the enemy than be bullied by the enemy, right?
Yay.
Yeah, I ended up in Facebook jail just from posting some of trying to post some of our friends, our guests' YouTube things on here, and I got banned for a 48-hour period.
What did they say? What you were doing?
They said it was against the rules or whatever it is.
The policies.
Yeah.
They're never very specific about it.
And it never even got to get downloaded. It was hit before it was even downloaded.
Wow.
I'm wondering how soon it's going to be on Facebook before the groups are silenced. Our kind of.
I don't know.
groups.
It's scary. It's scary.
It is, and it's ridiculous in my opinion. You know?
Well, of course, yes.
Okay, so now we have to open up a brand new media thing so that we can control it ourselves.
People have been talking about that. They've been trying. I think it's going to happen. Eventually, it will happen. One of them will catch on.
People are getting so fed up with Facebook and all the things that it's supposed to be social media, but you're being limited as to what you can even say or share.
Yeah.
Well, and I can understand that to some degree, but to what they're doing now, like they're banning people before they even do anything.
Yeah,
you know, they're putting people in Facebook jail before they did anything wrong. It's kind of reminds me of that.
Especially if it's already on Facebook to start with, and they're just reposting, or something that's on YouTube and they're just reposting. It's ridiculous. I've been in Facebook jail more than I can count.
You know, I've never been.
Don't
Surprisingly.
say that, Damien. They're hearing you.
But you know, that's
listen to that shit.
That's one of the reasons. I mean, there was a time way back when, before I started Black Lotus, that I would get into political debates with people online, which was a complete waste of time. It's like screaming at a wall, really.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that I wasn't banned back then, or I wasn't thrown into jail back then, but that's not when it was so rampant. I mean, you're talking about 3 years ago or so. And so, but I think if I did the same thing today, I would immediately be thrown in that Facebook jail.
Yeah, I tiptoe. I have to.
But yeah, I'm very vocal about politics and social issues, and I can't find myself doing that anymore. You know, I mean, first of all, there's Black Lotus, and I don't want it to tarnish Black Lotus.
Right.
But beyond that, I mean, I know it would just be hell because I would be in Facebook jail half the time. You know, it's just crazy. But anyway, we are here to talk about Halloween today. So let's get to that. I think we should start this. Wild, you posted an article recently about the origins of Halloween and what was it called? The Hell Caves?
Yeah, Fires of Hell Cave or something like that. Yeah.
You want to explain that?
Yeah, well, I posted that article, And I actually haven't even read that article. I thought it was a cool title. But what I have seen, I saw a
Damn it,
video
you do like
on.
I do sometimes and catch it.
But then after that, I looked up a video instead, and now I learned about the caves a little bit. So what I could do is I could talk about what that article was talking about, which is which is really interesting. This is the very, very beginning of Halloween. These are the origins, which is because the thing is that, you know, this video I saw on National Geographic Channel, it says that Halloween is really a patchwork holiday. Patchwork means like it is stitched together like a Frankenstein monster from like pagan and religious beliefs. And so basically it started, the holiday started about 2,000 years ago with the Celtic people, which around 2,000 years ago, they were all over Europe. And so they had this holiday, and I forget what the name is. It starts with an S. It's a hard pronunciation.
Samhain.
Oh, and there you go. You guys know. So yeah, they started this holiday. And this holiday was on October 31st. And this holiday actually meant a lot of things. It was the new year. It was also the end of the harvesting season. So they divided the year by a dark season and a light season. And so the dark season, 31st, it's an in-between stage between the light season to the dark season. It's a brand new year. It's harvest time. And lastly, they believe that on this day, the veil between the dead and the living was at its thinnest. And so there was a lot of dead spirits around us. And because of that, they had huge bonfires. And the purpose of the fires was to scare away the spirits from attacking the living. So those are the real origins, which I think is interesting. And after that, it does get changed a lot.
Oh, yeah. Well, in fact, you were talking about scaring away the evil spirits.
Yeah.
On Samhain, families would invite their ancestors to come join them. And that was the reason for the jack-o'-lanterns, which weren't originally pumpkins. They were like turnips and that kind of thing. But what they would do is they would put a candle in these things to guide the ancestors back home. And then they would make them into scary faces to ward away the evil spirits. So I always found that pretty interesting about Halloween traditions and how they began.
Well, it used to be too that they went souling. They didn't go trick or treating. They went souling and went door to door and got soul cakes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And that's kind of how trick or treating came about, you know.
Right.
And the other word for it is mumming.
Yep.
But, yeah.
It started over in Ireland, that it spread through Canada and to the United States. It wasn't until it hit the United States did we start using the pumpkins as jack-o'-lanterns.
Another celebration that takes place at this time is the Day of the Dead in Mexico. And I would say it in Spanish, but I'll screw it up. It's
De la Muerte, something like that.
Dia de los Muertos. Yeah.
Well, you said it perfectly.
Did
You said it perfectly.
So, and what that does is it honors their ancestors, and it's more like the original Samhain. And, you know, what they do is they'll go to a cemetery and they'll basically have an overnight picnic with their ancestor.
Right.
And I think, like I said, I think that is a lot more like the original meaning behind Samhain. And yeah, it's the turning of the year. And so, you know, there's that whole veil between the dead and the living that's at its thinnest. It's also at its thinnest around Christmas time too, like at this winter solstice, from what I understand.
Right.
But yeah, what they would do back in the old pagan days is they would invite their ancestors to come join them for dinner, and they would conduct this thing called the dumb supper. And dumb, not meaning dumb, meaning silent. And so what they would do is around the dinner table, they would set a place with food to an empty chair. And then afterward, after supper was over, and then they would talk about the ancestor and his or her life and that kind of thing. And so it really wasn't a scary thing. You know, I mean, they were paranoid about evil spirits, of course, but it really wasn't a scary thing like Halloween has turned into today. It was more just about the spirits. Yeah, it was just a day about the spirits, you know, because that's when the veil was thinnest. But yeah, and then after dinner, they would take the uneaten plate of food and take it out and offer it to the animals outside and just leave it there, and they would collect the plate the next day. So I always thought that that was really a cool tradition. And that's why I like the tradition of Day of the Dead in Mexico, because they basically do the same thing. And it's closer to the origins of Halloween.
Yeah, it's all about remembrance. It's all about remembering those who have passed and still keeping them alive in a sense with remembering.
Right, right.
That's where zombies come from.
Yes.
Well, that brings me to another question here. When did the holiday go from being about that, being about it being in touch with your ancestors, the spirits of your ancestors, to being about vampires and werewolves and ghosts? Well, I can understand the ghosts, but zombies and even serial killers, like Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers and Jason
When all
Voorhees.
those movies came out.
Right. And I mean, why was that? I mean, when did it so closely become, or rather more closely become about scares, and
Instead of
that kind of
remembering.
thing? I saw a meme today that pretty much sums this up. And at the top of the meme, it had a picture of this jack-o'-lantern kind of kite or lantern that was hanging from a ceiling, and it had a happy face on it, and it said Halloween when I was a kid. And then below that, it had a yard with bodies parts strewn all over the yard, and it's like Halloween now as I'm an adult. When did it change? When did it change?
Well, if I had
Everything commercialized, I guess.
so
with
from what I
everything.
understand, speaking of commercialism, what happened was that in the 50s, 1950s in America, that's when it became that. And if you go back to the 30s, what I read was it was a lot of Irish immigrant kids who would put on masks to hide their identity, and they would do mischief at houses. And sometimes they would ask for like ransom, like I won't mess up your house if you give me something, or trick or treat.
Right. Trick or
So
treat.
that's in the 30s. It was pretty intense. That's why the mask was involved. But then in the 50s, that's when I read that it blew up and became a mainstream thing that we see it now.
Well, here's the thing is that they actually banned Halloween for a long time, and nobody would allow it because of that reason, because of all the mischief that was happening and vandalism and that sort of thing. And it wasn't until, I want to say it was in the 50s, that Anoka, Minnesota, which is now known as the Halloween capital of the world, lifted the ban and started the local police department actually promoted it, and they protected everyone from this kind of stuff. And there was more of a presence. And now, Anoka, I used to live in Minnesota in Bloomington. And now Anoka, like I said, it's become known as the Halloween capital of the world. They have these huge parades, and none of that stuff happens anymore, but yeah, definitely.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they were the first ones to have the Halloween parades.
Yeah, I believe so. And it
I
happened.
forget how many thousands of people participated in that, and it just kind of bloomed from that.
Right. And the whole idea of the souling or mumming, trick-or-treating kind of thing, that was kind of discouraged. And the reason for that is because of those parades, and they would just throw candy from the floats, and so there would be really no reason to go out and trick or treat, so
It kind of discouraged that.
Yeah. And viewers, we're not talking about simple TPing of houses, we're talking about people would just seriously vandalize places,
Yeah, they used to take the fences and gates and everything.
Yeah. And not just of the homes, but businesses too. They would, just tear it apart. But
I wanted to mention, it's interesting you said it's been banned, because this is a holiday that has a large history. It's been banned several times, and it comes back to something else. But what I read was one of the very first times it was banned. So at first it was a pagan holiday. We talked about it. It's about the dead, respecting the dead. But I heard right after that, the Catholic Church didn't like any of that stuff.
Oh,
So the
yeah.
Catholic Church
Yeah.
made a new
Evil.
holiday. They made a new holiday on one day later. So October 31st, they made a holiday on November 1st called All Saints Day.
Right.
And this was supposed to, it had a lot of similarities with, what Halloween was before, but it was made to replace it. It was like a Catholic version where they celebrated dead saints.
Right.
And it was more focused on saints. So that was the first time they tried to ban it, so to say. They tried to remake it into something different.
That's actually where the word Halloween comes from, because what they called it was All Hallows Day as well. And so Halloween is the eve of All Hallows Day. Yeah. But so
What is that supposed to mean? Hollows. Meaning, meaning
Saints.
saints?
Hallowed. So holy.
Holy.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's interesting too, I just thought of, if we look at the original intention of Halloween, it had a different name back then, but the initial intention, what holiday do we have today that's most similar to the original Halloween? I think it's Memorial Day in America. Memorial Day, I think, is the most similar to the original Halloween.
Absolutely. Ralph and I have always been huge Halloween fans, ever since we were kids. And he would put on haunts where he used to live in Maine. We put on one haunt, one haunt here since Ralph has been here, and it was very successful. It was a lot of fun because one of my biggest passions is scaring the crap out of kids. Every year, at least we go out into our front yard and we give out candy to the kids. And something I want to mention about this is that what really drives me nuts is when we had a friend of ours, actually, the first year we were here, come and sit with us. And she was very demanding to the kids to make them say trick or treat, make them say thank you. And I understand, but that lies upon the parents, to have the kids say this. And I know of some people that if they don't say trick or treat, they don't get candy. If they don't say thank yous, some people, insult the kid, on their way out. I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's a day to give out candy. Just give it out, throw it at
back to the old part of where they used to demand that they do something for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They had to sing or dance or say a poem or something like that to even receive candy or anything like that.
And a lot of kids, have autism these days, and I know that they have these special plastic pumpkins that are purple, that are supposed to denote the fact that they have autism. So
I thought that was for those that had like allergies.
Oh, is it allergies?
There's blue ones for autism, I think.
Oh, it's blue ones. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I thought it was purple too, Damien.
Yeah, I think the purple ones are for those that have like allergies.
Like nut allergies, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they can't have candy, and so people will typically find something like a thing of stickers or something that's not food related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why, every year we get, those little glow stick bracelets or stickers or something like that to give out to kids that either can't have candy in general or can't have, they have nut allergies or something like that, so, but I think that doing so has become very popular. Another thing that has become popular that I've done throughout the years, especially in warmer climates, like here in Las Vegas and where Terry and I used to live in Florida. The parents bring the kids out trick-or-treating, and at Halloween time there, you're still sweating. You're in this high humidity, high heat, and the kids. So I would always bring out bottles of water or beer and say, "Hey, you look like you could need this. Say trick or treat." And they were always very appreciative of it. So viewers, it's something you might want to consider sometime if you are in a warmer climate. So,
do you guys dress up and pass out?
Yeah.
Pass out candy.
Pass out candy.
We dress up and pass out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, honey.
But yeah, Ralph and Terry and I all dress up for it,
That's
because
cool.
we're all kids at heart, and
Awesome.
love Halloween. So
Had we thought about it, we could have shared some pictures.
yeah. But
Yeah, that's cool.
how do you guys celebrate Halloween? Do you?
Well, I was going to tell a funny story real fast. So this is the last time I went trick-or-treating. Okay. So I was in graduate school. I was an adult. I was 34 years old. I was in graduate school, and it was a foreign exchange student, a biology student. She's from Africa, and she had never had Halloween in her life. So I was like, okay, well, let's go trick-or-treating, even though I'm a 34-year-old man. But we had a lot of fun. And what the cool thing was, I went as Han Solo, and I was 34 years old, and that was exactly the age Harrison Ford was when he played Han Solo. So I was been waiting all my life. That's what I told people, so they could give me candy. It was like, look, I was waiting to be age appropriate Han Solo. I get 1 year to do this. But yeah. It was fun. It was fun dressing up and getting candy as an adult.
I see a lot of adults. They bring their
Oh yeah.
baby that can't even have candy yet, and they're
Yeah.
trick or treating with an infant, and you know it's for them, and that's fine. Here,
Well, and
Yeah.
you know what? That goes back to what I was saying about
just give it to them.
putting restrictions on who gets candy and who doesn't. A lot of people say, well, he's not even in costume. So what? Maybe he can't afford a costume.
Right.
Give him one of those fun-sized candy bars and shut
Not
up.
going to hurt you.
It just pisses me off. It really does.
Right. You're the
He's
one
dressed up
giving
as a
it
little
anyhow.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I said you're giving it out anyhow. It's not them.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, it's just stupid. But
Well, the 1 year I did a haunted house, which I had never been to a haunted house before, and of course I did Elvira. Now,
Nice.
I had the attitude for that. I had the best time of my life.
I bet.
Oh yes, I did. I did tours and took everybody through. I had an amazing time. That was great.
Nice.
It's a lot of fun.
do you guys give out candy on Halloween?
Yeah.
Do you have many trick-or-treaters coming through?
Well, I've moved where I'm at now, so I'm not real sure how that's going to turn out.
Oh. How about you, Juan?
What was the question? Do we have trick?
Do you have many trick-or-treaters? Do you give out candy?
Yeah, we do. I'm in a new place this year, so I think I'll probably give out. There's no decoration, so I'll just put up one decoration so they know, and
Yeah.
I'll give out candy.
Or are you
So,
going
you know-
trick or treating too, Wild?
No
Don't
more-
lie.
There's no more foreign exchange students for me to take, so I'm
If you get dressed up, you don't have. They ain't gonna know.
Get a stroller, put a little baby
Yeah,
doll
you're a
in there.
big kid at heart.
yeah. Though you guys are tempting me to do something unethical.
One of my favorite things to see is when the parents are active and they dress up with the kids. And one of the favorite ones that I've ever had come to the door was the dad was dressed up like Darth Vader, and his two his boy and his girl were dressed up as Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker.
Oh yeah.
And then he was pushing a stroller with a baby in it, and the baby was dressed up as R2-D2. And I just and then he had this music box set into his chest plate, and it played the dum 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 dum.
Oh, that's
dum,
cool.
dum, dum. I just thought that was fantastic. I loved it. But yeah, I love when the parents get involved with this stuff, and they encourage the fun behind Halloween, and
Right.
but yeah, it blows my mind how Halloween has changed, or Samhain has changed. I guess Samhain really hasn't changed. I mean, I used to be Wiccan, and it was a day where it wasn't a day of mourning. It was just a day of remembrance, and many Wiccans still practice that, and they don't really celebrate Halloween, but they do celebrate Samhain. But yeah, I just wonder why it has changed over the years to become this big celebratory holiday, and when did it become a day of scary stuff? I don't like going to haunted houses personally because I don't like to be scared, but I love to scare kids. You know, so I'll throw I'll throw a Halloween haunt and dress up the yard, but you know I just can't do that. I can't handle people jumping out and scaring me. Not gonna, I got a weak heart.
So when I grew up, I grew up as under the Baptist religion, and we always went trick or treating. But then when my kids were young, it became it was more of a fundamentalist church, but it was like you could not celebrate Halloween for shame because it was evil. They were saying you're conjuring the evil spirits, you're bringing all that in, and so to even dress up was terrible, and that went through. And I've heard so much about that, and then I started hearing about churches that are having a harvest party.
Oh, God.
So that it is not Halloween, but they're doing and they're still
awesome.
dressing up, but they would dress up as angels and they would dress up as, clowns or something, maybe not a clown, but something cute,
No, I like it because finally me and my mom can celebrate Halloween together, finally.
Just
Christians, I'm sorry. I don't mean to get religious here, but Christians drive me nuts. I mean, they absconded with all the pagan holidays and now they're going after Halloween. It's just like, when does it stop? It's just, Halloween
it's a
is
fun
not
holiday.
Halloween is not the devil's holiday. I mean, just because you dress up as a superhero or a fairy princess or something like that, that doesn't make you a Satan worshiper. I mean, it just gets ridiculous after a while, and again, they're coming after Halloween, and they have been for the last, 10, 15 years. But another thing that kind of drives me nuts is they have these parking lot trick or treat things. What are they? Trunk or treats. And I mean, here in our neighborhood complex, we have one that goes on every year. They still go around and trick or treat too, because greedy little bastards.
Right.
But it just seems to take the charm out of Halloween. These trunk or treat things.
Really?
I just
never heard of it here. We haven't.
Yeah, and people load up the trunks or the hatchbacks of their cars and with candy, and then they go to a parking lot and that's where they just pass out candy. And they decorate their cars and all that, And
the kids walk car to car and get candy out of the trunk.
Right. And
to me, that's fascinating. Even though it may be boring, it's fascinating because here's the newest change that's happened to Halloween traditions is right there. Yeah. We're always talking about how much it changes. Like that's the newest mutation of it, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a parade of kids though going through too, and you get to see all the kids just going through. Yeah,
well, I know my sister took a little kid out, really little kid, couldn't go to school yet, and he loved it. So I think kids do like that, but it is totally different than the traditional.
Yeah, I just think it takes kind of the magic away from it. Terry's school, she teaches at an elementary school, and they do something like this every single year.
Yeah, the trunk or treat. Yeah.
Did that happen before? Did it happen before the pandemic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Very interesting.
But they're encouraging it because of the pandemic now.
Sure.
Rather than having a kid come face to face with you at your doorway, instead of that, they just come by the trunk and pick out a piece of candy, so they're encouraging that for social distancing. But yeah. But I love trick-or-treaters. I really do. And I don't care if they're not kids. The year we left Florida, we had one more Halloween before we left. And we had these, they were college kids. And they knocked on the door. And when I opened it, they were holding up a fake door. And they opened up the fake door and they were all dressed like old people. And they were like, "Oh, aren't you cute?"
Oh, that's hilarious.
It was absolutely adorable. It was funny.
Hilarious.
I loved it. I thought that was so original. And that's one of the things I like about Halloween. People get creative, with their costumes and stuff like that.
Get some original ideas.
But Another thing I want to talk about today is I want to talk about how lucrative and how popular Halloween has become. It has become the second most popular holiday of the year,
Next to
and
Christmas.
next to Christmas. And let me see. I have some written down. It says today's adults have become avid Halloween revelers, especially young adults. By 2005, just over half of adults celebrated Halloween. Today, that number has grown to over 70%.
Mm.
That kind of blows my mind because, again, when I was a kid, it wasn't like that at all. You know, I mean, our parents would go to Halloween parties sometimes, you know, but it wasn't as commonplace as it is today. You know, with adults going to Halloween parties, you know, and I mean, that's more common than kids having Halloween parties. So,
Well, things are more creative now than what they were before.
yeah. And I think the other thing too is that, like Halloween decorations and costumes are more easily accessible, you know, like for instance, that Spirit Halloween shop that pops up in malls and stuff like that. But here's another thing. It says consumers are expected to spend a record 10.14 billion with a B on Halloween this year, according to the National Retail Federation. And again, like I said, it falls just behind Christmas. You know, I mean, obviously people spend a hell of a lot more than that on a Christmas. But yeah,
If I had to guess what's going on, I think there's been a shift in the culture, at least Western American culture. Like people, like nerds and losers like me, like weirdos. We're basically, there's a lot more of us, and we have a lot more money. So that's why we're seeing a lot more Marvel movies. That's why we're seeing like nerd culture get really big.
Cosplay,
yeah, cosplay is a big part. So this holiday plays into us, and we're a growing demographic, and the companies are there to take advantage of that desire. And
absolutely.
Fill it with the needs.
it's a way of showing off your creativity too, especially with the costumes.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
And that's the other thing too, like Halloween decorations and costumes. I mean, when I was a kid, my mom made my costumes, you know, and we even
We
got
didn't go buy them.
homemade decorations. You know, now, like I said, you've got like this Spirit Halloween place. It is already made, albeit it's extremely expensive, but it's already made, so you don't have to mess with it, you know. And a lot of Halloween Puritans like Ralph and myself are like, make it yourself. You know, oftentimes it ends up looking even better, you know. So yeah. But we all bought Halloween costumes last year, and that was the first time I had spent money on a Halloween costume, and I don't even know how long. You know, when I was a kid, I was really into stage makeup. So my mother could sew, so she could create a Frankenstein costume for me, and I could do the makeup, you know, on my own. And yeah, I mean, but now everything's in ready-made kits, everything from makeup to costumes to decorations. So
it's not as creative sometimes.
it really isn't. Yeah.
But it's actually more fun to make your own.
Right.
Yeah. And
that's actually showing part of you.
Yeah. And that was, like I said, that's part of the magic that I think Halloween has lost over the years.
As far as costumes, when I became an adult, I was like, here's my philosophy on costumes for myself. I was like, I'm only going to dress up in masculine archetypes. You know, nothing. It's just a slippery slope. So, for instance, I've been as a milkman, very masculine. Fireman, very masculine. Lumberjack. You know, so I stick to those types of costumes. You know, I feel like that works for me at this stage of my life.
I like costumes where you have to guess what the person's supposed to be. I saw this thing recently, and it was a couple that had like ghost sheets over their bodies, and they both had these. Do you remember those laugh things? They were like laugh
a sound
machines.
machine. Okay.
Yeah, it was like a sound machine, and it was laughter. And one of them had a sign on the sheet, and it said, "Guess what we are."
Okay.
Well, the answer was sheets and giggles.
Uh,
Got it.
I thought that was cute. But yeah, I like when you need to guess what they're supposed to be, you know. So
I wasn't.
Do you
gonna tell
remember
us
when
that.
you? Oh, go ahead,
Go
Kim.
ahead. I
was just
wasn't
gonna-
going to tell this.
one at a time. Kim.
I said I wasn't going to tell us, but I'll tell us anyhow. Because it's funny, because it goes to show you that if you use your creativity and your mind, that it can be a lot cheaper in the long run. Me and about 4 friends, we all decided we're going to all make our own costumes, going to go to the bars to the contests, enter the contests.
Right.
They spent like $200-300. They had the contacts and the whole 9 yards. I spent $20. I dressed up as a dominatrix. I got second place.
I'll bet.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I made the 6-foot whip and everything.
See,
Oh,
and
you
that's
made
another
it.
thing.
Wow.
That's another thing about adult stuff that I'm finding is actually transcending to kids is women who dress up really sexy, and now even kids are doing it. Like for instance, what is her name from the Marvel movies? The Joker's
Oh, Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn. That's not Marvel, that's DC, isn't it?
DC.
But anyway, but yeah, I mean, I've even seen kids as young as probably 8 years old dressing up as Harley Quinn. You know,
I
just
made my
think that's-
granddaughter's outfit, and it was gorgeous.
you know, and
Her name's Quinn.
Catwoman, yeah. And the thing about this is you know the original Harley Quinn looked nothing like this. She was in like a jester's costume, you know?
Right.
Right.
But no, that's not the one they picked. They picked the one with what's her
That she
name?
looked sexy in.
Right. So that's another thing and that kind of bothers me when something like that transcends to kids going around dressed like that. It just kind of bugs me, you know. I mean, we've got enough of a pedophilia problem in America as it is. We don't need that to top it off, you know. But
Right.
anyway, I'm sorry. I
Terry.
just wanted to interject that. Terry, you had something to say too?
It's slightly off topic, but I just remember when we were kids, and and I've heard that people kind of do these, but I don't know anybody who's ever had one in the last 10 years. And that is like when we were kids, we would go to a friend's house and they would bob for apples, or they would have like a dark room or blindfold you, and you'd stick your hand in bowls of grapes or in spaghetti or something like that and tell you it's worms, or tell you it's eyeballs, yeah, and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of wondering if anybody does anything like that anymore. And
Oh,
Yeah,
I
but
bet
it's
they
adults
do.
are kind different.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Caroline?
I said, yeah, but it's called something different now, Terry.
Obviously they don't do it at adult parties, but I'm sure that they still do it at kids' parties. You know,
But that's what I'm wondering. Do the kids even have parties anymore?
I think they do. I think what happens now is that, let's say Halloween falls on a school day. And so what they'll do is they'll take the kid and have a party, invite their friends, and they'll have a little party that lasts maybe an hour or so. Then they'll take the kids out trick-or-treating for about another hour or so. And then they bring them back home to grandma. Grandma watches them while the parents go and get dressed up like a slut and, you know, whatever. and then they go out to their own party, and that lasts all night long. You know, I think that's kind of the way it works. You say again?
I said that's called role play at home.
Right. When do you have to return that costume, honey?
Oh, it's yours? Sorry, I'm doing it all.
Anyway, so I'm glad we did this episode. You know, most of the time we talk about some really serious issues and we don't get a chance to laugh a lot, you know, and so I thought doing this episode would be refreshing because we could sit around and laugh, you know.
Something different.
Even though, I mean, we talked about, you know, the origins of the whole thing and how it's changed and, you know, how corrupt it's actually become from what it's originally was, but we were still able to sit around and do this for sheets and giggles. So, but anyway, I don't think we're going to go a full hour tonight, so we're probably going to get out of here. But does anybody else have anything to offer about this before we do?
What do you
I'm
guys
just
dress
curious.
up as this year?
Same thing last year. I have this. I don't
Frock.
It's this frock. It looks like an evil wizard. You know?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Terry has a what was yours, like a ghost kind of thing?
It,
Long white wig.
it was like a witch, but she had a long blonde wig, and then it was a cape, with the hood or whatever, and
Yeah.
it was real simple. But I also got Winnie the Pooh to wear at school because I don't want to wear the other one. Just
What was
It
yours?
was just
I
a
don't remember.
monster, I believe.
Just a monster?
Yeah.
I don't
I
remember.
don't remember.
Yeah. But we'll probably just wear that stuff again because it was expensive, and so we want to get some mileage out of it.
yeah.
I've had my
How
eye.
old are you?
I've had my eye on this. I've had my eye on this dinosaur costume. I might finally bite the bullet.
There you go.
You a dinosaur?
I know
No.
it's hard to believe.
Shocking. Shocking.
So are you guys doing anything special for Halloween? I mean, are you going out to a bar or anything?
I think I'm going to put up one decation so the kids know, turn on the lights, and then give out candy and dress up as a dinosaur.
There you go.
What
I'm
about
not
you,
going to
Kimberly?
be dinosaur.
What about you, Kimberly?
I don't know what I'm going to do. I probably will take care of the grandkids while everybody else goes out.
Pass out candy and stuff.
Seems to
Yeah.
be the role of grandparents, So,
Oh, I still have fun.
Oh yeah. After they've had about 3 pieces of candy and they're running all over your house.
They're good. I can honestly say that they're good. Even my
How old
little
are they?
7-year-old, I had her last night. Yeah, she's crazy though.
That's always
So-
fun. Watch movies. Watch scary movies.
Oh yeah.
So let's get out of here. Viewers, thanks a lot for watching. And as I said at the top of the show, we're having a problem, I think, with shadow banning by YouTube, and you can help us out. And I'm very serious about this. I'm not begging for likes, but if you like the show, hit like, hit that thumbs up. First of all, we love to see the thumbs up, but also subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And when you do, hit the bell so you're notified, because we've had a lot of viewers tell us that they're not getting notified about this show,
Right.
And that it's coming up. And so I would like to try this experiment. If you would do this for us, please do. And I think if you do, I think it'll change the algorithms. And if it doesn't, it's a sign that we're being shadow banned. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, until
Happy
next time,
Halloween,
folks,
everybody.
happy Halloween. And we
Halloween.
will be back next week with a guest. His name is John Russell. And what he does is he's an avid motorcyclist and he's a paranormal investigator. And he travels all over America and Canada, going to these different paranormal locations and investigating them. So
Wow.
we had him on the podcast. Fascinating guy. So yeah, we're going to have him here on Black Lotus. So anyway, until next time, again, happy Halloween, and keep thinking.